Do you read short stories? If you're a writer and you're not reading short stories, I'm going to give you 5 reasons to make you curious about short stories and why you should read them. I'm Traci Skuce. I'm a writer and writing mentor, and I help writers dive deep into their fiction or memoir so they can bring their best stories into the world. If you like this channel, please subscribe and press the bell so you don't miss a single video. All right, so why read short stories? First of all, time. It's surprising to me that more people aren't reading short stories, given that we always complain about time. There's never enough time to read, there's never enough time to write, there's never enough time to fill in the blank. But short stories, they're short. And so you can sit down and you can read a short story from front to back, beginning to end in one sitting. Or if you like to listen to short stories, you can listen to them on the New Yorker podcast. They have a great short fiction podcast. So time is, one of the biggest reasons to read short stories. But the second is that when you read short stories, you get an exposure to more craft choices than if you're reading a novel. So what I mean by that is when you read even 2 short stories by the same writer, they're having to make different craft choices in each of the stories. So let's say one is written in the first person retrospective and the second one's written in a close third. Then you get an understanding of how to work with both those points of view in a shorter amount of time. So number 3, why read short stories? Because when we read as writers, it's really important to reread. You can begin to kind of read like a writer when you're reading once over, but it's not until the second, third, fourth time through a piece that you understand the intricacies of the craft. And when you read short stories, if you're really jazzed on a short story, I don't suggest you do this with every single one, but when you're really jazzed about a short story, read it again. Find out what is the writer doing here that makes me so engaged in this story. So rereading. The fourth reason is kind of along the lines of what I mentioned earlier. When you have a short story, there's more room for experimentation, and you get exposed to different kinds of writing that you might not normally get exposed to in a novel. So let's say the short story is written from the point of view of, well, not point of view, let's use another example. Let's say it's written in the form of rejection letters. There's a great short memoir piece called I Regret to Inform You. And it's written all in rejection letters. So you get exposure to different forms, and it triggers something. When I see a different kind of form and I'm excited about it, it like inspires me to try it out. And even if I don't use it, it can spark something in me to create a story that I wouldn't necessarily have created otherwise. So that's the fourth reason. Now, the fifth reason, aside from short stories being awesome, is economy of language. You only have so many words in a short piece of fiction to tell the story. So when you see other writers doing it, you begin to learn how to use more deftly, say, backstory. So if you've got a character who has a lot going on and they have a history that you want to bring forward, but you don't want to weigh the story down with their backstory, understanding how other writers do it, thread backstory through their story without weighing it down. Well, yeah, read short stories and you can discover those kind of things. So, reading short stories, it's the end of short story month. Every genre needs a month, and I really encourage you start with you can start with the New Yorker. If you write fantasy, I'm sure there's writers like Kelly Link and oh, what's her name? I can't remember. But anyway, there's writers out there who write magical realism, like Carmen Maria Machado, and there's writers out there who write fantasy short stories. There's writers who write literary fiction that you definitely find in the New Yorker. But picking up anthologies is helpful. Go to the library and pick up an anthology of short stories. There's a publication called The Best American Short Stories, which includes short story writers from North America. You may live in the UK and there may be something similar. So just searching for anthologies to start, and then you begin to find who are your favorite short story writers. And maybe you will even try writing a short story.